Yeah.
Saying death to the Jews, you're seeing, it's astounding. I go to these rallies. I cover these rallies. And that if you go to YouTube to pro-Hamas Fort Lauderdale, you'll see my video, and it will scare people. It will scare people what's going on in this country, and the media is not reporting it. The media is not reporting it because they're so politically correct, and they're so afraid to insult Islam that they will not report it. But there is a low-grade, clearly a low-grade civil war going on in Europe where they're destroying buildings and how many cars were burned in France? Was
Absolutely.
it 1,500 overnight? The police are being attacked. It's unbelievable. And it's happening here in America, and nobody is saying anything.
Well, absolutely.
When have you ever seen people openly calling for genocide?
Right.
Ever.
I know it.
And it's been a manipulation of the people have been manipulated by these images in the media. Did you see people come out for Darfur?
Right.
Did you see people come out when the Soviet Union, when Russia invaded Georgia?
Right.
You see people. There's something terribly wrong.
Well,
I mean, I don't care if you like the Jewish people or not. It's irrelevant. It is a shared value system. It is this is a one tiny democracy in the Middle East. What is it? 9 miles wide, and it's narrow.
Right.
Surrounded by these enormous Arab lands, and this whole Palestinian idea. Again, if you go back in history, you'll see there was no such thing as a Palestinian before 1967. So when you go to sleep a Transjordanian in 1967 and you wake up a Palestinian, it's really not about land. It's really about Islamic jihad. It's really about the legacy of Islamic anti-Semitism, as outlined in the book by Dr. Andrew Borstome. Yes, it's a tome. Yes, it's 1,000 pages. But he goes through every hadith and surah and points out how anti-Semitism is basically indigenous, basically innate, basically in the DNA of the Quran and the hadiths and the surahs. And nobody wants to talk about this.
Well, I think that's a very valid point, and it's a point that looks at the larger picture in that how the world deals with a nation being attacked by radical Islamic terrorists. How we treat that is really how we will be treated next, because this is a scourge that's really covering the planet, and everyone's at risk from it. Of course, people in the United States, sometimes I feel they have a short memory. That we look at what terrorism did to us at 9/11, and after a short while, people are almost wanting to treat it like it was just a bad day of the week, instead of that it was a product of a long line of attacks that we had on our interests. And Americans need to stand up, and that's I think where I'd want to go next. What are your opinions on how the United States supports Israel or doesn't support Israel when these things are taking place? What's taking place right now?
Listen, I'm very concerned about the Obama administration. They will not be sympathetic to Israel, not because of his his being raised a Muslim or anything like that. That's not what my concern is. He is very leftist, and his advisors are decidedly anti-Israel. And Israel is our ally in a very nasty part of the world. And the Islamic Jihad is outlined in the Muslim Brotherhood Project, where they outline everything that they're doing. And frankly, they approach each country differently. I mean, you couldn't get away with burning 1,500 cars like they do in France. Right. You couldn't get away. There's a stealth jihad going on, which is Robert Spencer's latest book. And he was in town for a Fox interview, and we did a small vlog. It's on the front page. People should watch it. It's short. It's 6 minutes. Very, very informative. But the stealth jihad is a jihad by other means, not just violent means. There's a jihad in academia where, as you could see, they've completely taken over the public school, the college campuses in terms of the curriculum. Middle Eastern studies. You see what goes on college campuses when here in America, if Ann Coulter or Robert Spencer or Daniel Pipes go to speak, it's a very scary it's a very scary event. They have to have security.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a hostile environment. I talked with Robert Spencer about that a little bit, and we shared a story that you may want to watch sometime on my video with him about what happens if you try to publish in the college papers like we have here on the university setting at Kansas State University. You'll just be attacked. You'll be taken out. And so I totally agree. One of the problems I see with America's stance, and I am very concerned about what the Obama administration will do when it comes to looking at this issue. But I think an ally, a strong ally, one, not only gives assistance, but sometimes gets out of the way of their allies, allows them to do what they need to do. I see that we set a bad precedent, and I think the nation sets a bad precedent psychologically to these terrorists when we hear stuff. And, I listen to Fox News a lot. And ever since the recent conflict has gone up, you hear this jargon, this repetitious thing that Israel is in a battle against time. They're in a battle against time, that they have to do whatever they're going to do to defend themselves under some kind of time pressure.
Right. Well, because of the world.
Because, that the nation's not going to tolerate to give them any time. That right there at the ground level gives fuel and emboldens the enemy. Because they say, look, if we just hang in, we do whatever damage we can do, and when we begin to lose, we just hang in, that we know that the so-called allies of America will shut down Israel from giving us the death blow. I just wonder what would be the effect psychologically.
I am hoping after years of impossible parameters that Israel just is fed up and doesn't listen. Because if Israel shuts off a light in Gaza, it's the same worldwide condemnation as if they make an airstrike. And nobody talks about the fact that Hamas, which is an Iranian proxy, it's an Iranian foreign legion, was started. If you read that charter, the first paragraph calls for the destruction of Israel. They were born to destroy Israel. That's what Hamas is. Hamas is an Islamic jihadi organization that's vow and its reason for living is to kill Israel. Period. Right. Read the Hamas charter. They make no secret about it. In their declarations, on their TV, they make no secret about it. The West loves to say, they don't mean it. It's the most ridiculous thing. It's like this cognitive dissonance. Every time these people say certain things, they don't mean it. They don't really mean it. Did Hitler not mean it? They work in an impossible situation. You have Hamas literally. There's a video on my news site where they show you they go into a bathroom, a master bathroom, and they go under the sink and they take out the bottom. They the bottom, and there's a huge tunnel in there, in mosques, in civilian homes, homes. So then when you fire on a civilian home, you're firing on civilians, Right. I mean, it's an impossible situation for Israel, and she's been condemned for decades now, really since Oslo. That was Israel's mistake.
Well, and it's a trend that the terrorists are using all over the place. We had the same thing in Iraq where, we store ammunitions in mosques, fire from mosques, knowing that if any kind of retribution is heaped on them, that politically the U.S. would take the brunt. And that's what Israel's taking the brunt. I just would wonder what would be the psychological blow if the U.S. came out and said, look, Israel's response to these terrorists will be over whenever it's over. If it's today or if it's a year from now, there will be no time constraints from the U.S. put on Israel to stop defending themselves. I wonder what kind of psychological blow that would give to Hamas, who's trying to hunker down, thinking, well, if we just hold on till next week, then everything, we can replenish ourselves and continue to shoot missiles into Israel. I think that we're fighting a political correct war, not just in Israel, but we're fighting it everywhere, and it's to the benefit of the terrorists. They are smart enough to know that they can win against people that are not fighting with the mentality that you talked about in World War II. In World War II, it was win at all costs. Over there, we're not coming back until it's over there. We're going to win. Winning is the only option.